Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to Testa and Neal Keep It Real right here on WWSU 106.9 and our YouTube channel on WWSU 106.9. How are all of you? Hope you had a great weekend. Happy to be back here today. I'm Shea Neal, alongside with me, as always, Parker Testa. Parker, hope you had a great weekend, man, but we got a lot to get into today, and I'm really excited.
Yes, we do. It's going to be a fun one. Some college football talk as always. On Mondays. A really fun tier list that I'm really excited for. Talking a lot of baseball and of course the NBA finals. So it's going to be a fun one.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you kind of hinted at that because, like you said, we have been doing. We set up the college football schedule. Mondays is kind of our free talk day. But we did quarterbacks last week. Obviously, we didn't have a show on Monday because it was the day after 4th of July. But we did quarterbacks last week. Who has the best QB rooms in the country? Today, we're going to be doing running backs. And I think this one, in a lot of ways, could be more fun because, when we did quarterbacks, having a good backup quarterback's important. But it was really just comparing the best starting quarterbacks in the country. When it comes to running backs, Parker, every team in college football in Division I uses 2 or 3 running backs. So this is actually really important to have depth for.
Yeah, it is. And like we talked about with quarterbacks, they get drafted every year. The good ones do, and sometimes even some not good ones do. You need to have guys to step up, but for running backs, a lot of teams use, like you said, 2 and 3 running backs, sometimes on the same drive. So it's a lot of substitutions among running backs. So you really get to see who's good.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big day. How about this, Parker? Well, since we talk about it now, Tyler Black becomes the highest Wright State position player ever drafted in the MLB draft. He's going to Milwaukee, drafted by the Brewers with the 33rd overall pick. Big congrats to Tyler Black. He becomes the second highest Wright State player drafted ever, only behind Brian Anderson, who was the 3rd overall pick in 1993. But he's a Hall of Famer at Wright State. So if you're in any conversation, any sentence with Brian Anderson, you're a Raider legend. And congratulations to Tyler Black. And I'm excited to see what he can do. I hate to say it because the Brewers are in the Reds division, but I think the Brewers got a really quality infielder.
Yeah, they did. They did. And like you said, big congrats to Tyler Black. He's had some injuries, but he's worked his way back from it. Had a heck of a year, and gets drafted 33rd overall to the Milwaukee Brewers. So congrats to Tyler Black, and looking forward to seeing if he can continue the great success that all of Wright State alumni have had in the majors.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, a continuation of what we've seen over the last couple of years with Wright State athletes going to the professional leagues, where we saw, baseball's been doing it for years. Peyton Burdick, how good has he been with the Miami Marlins? Barrett Bellamy with the Pittsburgh Pirates. J.D. Orr also in the Marlins system. Seth Gray with the Twins. Caleb Sampson with the Rays. Sean Murphy, now the starting catcher for the Oakland A's. It's been an unbelievable journey over the last couple of years for the Raider gang. And we're still at a point where there's still plenty of this draft left to go. We're going to see guys like Quincy Hamilton, like Bradley Bremer, like Austin Klein, maybe even Jake Schramm go, throughout the course of this draft. There could be 5, 6, 7 Raiders drafted over the course of the next couple of days. And it's really exciting times because the more guys you get drafted, the more guys you ship off to the pros, the better recruits you get because guys are excited about growing, developing in this program, and taking that next step.
Yeah, they are, and that's all a credit to Bob Grant and the Red State Raider gang coaching staff, Coach Sogard and his crew have done. I think they've done a second to none job, possibly in the entire country in developing these guys, and to get Wright State to the point where they're a contender for the NCAA tournament every single year is no small feat. So, and they've done well developing these guys. They've done well, all throughout the year. They won, seemingly almost every game this year. It seemed like, and even they won some close ones and they won some not close ones. They put up 28 runs in one game this season. So. They've had a heck of a year, and Tyler Black, the first one to go off the board, the first of many, we hope, for the Red State Raiders.
I'm very excited to see where Quincy Hamilton ends up. I'm excited to see where all of these guys go, but Quincy Hamilton's a little bit, more of an interesting case because he's a Dayton kid. I know he moved around a lot as a kid because his parents were, or his father was in the military, but he settled in Dayton, played high school at Centerville, and then went to Wright State. So he's been tied to the Dayton community for 8 years now, and it's not very often, as good as Wright State baseball's been, it's not very often that there's many Dayton kids on the roster, period, let alone Dayton kids that have a chance to make an impact in professional baseball. So I'm very excited to see where Quincy Hamilton goes up or ends up. And a large part of me is hoping that could maybe be, the team an hour south in the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, what a story that would be. And to see Quincy Hamilton end up in Cincinnati after growing up in Dayton and going, like you said, going to Centerville, Wright State, and then moves an hour south to play for the hometown team. You can't get much of a better story than that. But it's going to be interesting to see where Quincy and the rest of these guys end up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll have more of an MLB draft breakdown as the week goes on. I kind of want to wait for more of it to unfold. But we'll talk about where the Raider gang members ended up. We'll talk about the Pirates did something very surprising with the number 1 overall pick and went with a player that really nobody expected to go number 1. He's a good player, don't get me wrong. But would it even be in a Pittsburgh Pirates situation if we weren't questioning what the Pittsburgh Pirates did? So we'll get into more, like I said, more MLB draft talk as the week goes on. But an exciting night for Tyler Black and for all Wright State baseball fans. The highest drafted position player in Wright State history and the highest drafted player since Brian Anderson in 1993. That's almost 30 years of history that Tyler Black just beat tonight. So that's impressive, and best of luck to him in Milwaukee. So, but yeah, we're going to start off talking college football running backs. A little bit later on in the first hour, NBA logos tier list. I'm very excited for this one, Parker. We meant to do it on Friday, ran out of time, but we did not forget about it. And I'm excited about this because this is going to be a really hard one for me. I think out of the 30 NBA teams, Parker, I think I really like 22 of the logos. So I don't know how the heck I'm going to pick.
Yeah, I don't either. I like almost all of them. They all look really good. And like you said, it's going to be really hard to pick.
Yeah, it sure is. But that'll be coming up towards the end of hour number 1. In hour number 2, we have, it's the halfway point. The All-Star break is this week. I guess it's the air quote halfway point. I know we're technically 91 games in or whatever. But I thought it'd be fun, Parker, to kind of go through the standings, look at each division, see who's at the top, what we expect from them in the second half, who's been disappointing. The playoff races, the NL wild card, the NL is getting really, really interesting. And the AL is very interesting too. The Yankees wouldn't make the playoffs if the season ended today. So there's a lot to get into there. And then to end the show, the finals. It's been fun all playoffs long, and the finals is no different. What a performance tonight by Giannis Antetokounmpo, and we got a series, and I'm excited to dive into that in hour number 2.
Yeah, I am too. I'm excited to talk some baseball. I'll always look forward to talking baseball. Whether it's on this show or just out in general life. I love getting in, conversations about baseball with really anybody. Conversations or even arguments sometimes. But yeah, and this game 3 tonight was really good. And the Bucks pull back within a game of the series. Phoenix still leads 2-1, but like you said, we have a series now.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So I'm excited to, I guess, and here's one I just thought of, Parker, that we could also do. The NBA is a little different from other sports leagues in the fact that they have those city jerseys. I'd love to do a tier list of those at some point too.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I'm they're slowly unveiling those, and baseball is doing a similar thing with some city-based jerseys. So lots of those are really fun and really cool. So I'm down for that idea. That'd be a fun one.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. Let's start off with college football. Like I said, I'm excited to get into this one. I really am. This is going to be an exciting topic, and I am going to share the screen here. So if you're following along on YouTube, you can follow along with us. So let's get into this. We're going to be doing running backs today, like I said, and I'm very, very, very excited to get into this. So let's start with number 1, Parker. Let me zoom in really quick so I can see a little bit, and so people who are on YouTube can see as well. But we have the top 15 just like we did with quarterbacks, and we'll start with number 1, and it's the Texas A&M Aggies, Parker. And I'm very excited to talk about Texas A&M because it's a team we did not get to talk about when it came to quarterbacks. And I think Texas A&M deserves a lot of credit and deserves a lot of excitement surrounding that program because it's a team that just barely missed the college football playoff last year. And I know when you think SEC, you think Georgia, you think Alabama, you think maybe even LSU and Florida. But I think A&M cemented themselves into that conversation. They're definitely a contender in the SEC West.
Yeah, they are. And with Coach Fisher at the helm, you always have a shot wherever you're at. So, and they have Spiller, who was he had 946 yards 2 years ago. And then Spiller only played 10 games last year, but had over 1,000 yards. So, and then they have some quality depth behind them. They have Devin a Kane. I don't know how you pronounce that name, but he's behind them with 364 last year, and then they have a wide receiver moving over to tailback. So while playing the wide receiver role, so you have not only a quality starter, but some depth behind Spiller at both. Even with a guy both at wide receiver and at tailback.
Yeah, and you've heard of. I think a lot of people who are listening to this show have heard of Isaiah Spiller's older brother, CJ. Was an unbelievable running back at Clemson, and then went to the NFL, played for the Bills for a few years. So the Spiller family has quite the reputation for producing some really good college football running backs.
Right, and yeah, they do. So, yeah, like you said, CJ, fantastic at Clemson. And had a decent NFL career as well. And then Isaiah's not far behind him, So being named the starter in the best running back room in the country will certainly get you some looks from NFL teams.
It sure will. And then let's move on to Georgia. Last year, Georgia led with the number 1 running back in the country, Zamir White. He had almost 800 yards on 5.6 yards a carry. James Cook as well was the number 5 running back in the class. He had 300 yards. And then they also had the number 7 running back in the class in Kenny McIntosh. So they had 3 top 7 running backs in the class of 2020, and they're all going to be sophomores heading into the year, Parker. So this is a 3-headed monster that's going to get better together as they play. And I'm very excited for this group. They also have depth in Dejon Edwards and Kendall Milton. Guys might not see the field as much as the big 3 of White, Cook, and McIntosh, but those 3, they're all still 20 years old or younger, and they're all former 4- and 5-star recruits. So the future, Georgia has JT Daniels at quarterback, and he's going to be good, but it can still be a run-first offense with these 3.
Yeah, it could be, and this is another one that. Like you said, really strong recruits coming out. They had the 1, 5, and 7, coming in last year, and they were all great. So they're back this year under Kirby Smart. Like you said, JT Daniels is going to be really good, but he has some backup behind him.
He does. Iowa State comes in at number 3. I'm excited, Parker. So for this week, we're going to be doing the Mountain West Conference on Wednesday in our non-Power 5 preview. And then we're going to be doing the Big 12 on Friday for our Power 5 preview. I'm excited for Friday already. Not that I don't love the Mountain West, because I do, with teams like Boise State and San Diego State and Fresno. I'm very excited to talk about the Mountain West. But I love this Iowa State football team. And I think everyone's quick to talk about Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12. Don't count out the Cyclones. I think this team's got a real shot of not just winning the Big 12 this year, but even making some noise for the college football playoff. They are really, really good. And it's led by maybe the best running back in the country, Breece Hall.
Yeah, it is. And Breece Hall, was really good last year with almost 900 yards rushing.
And
not
7
last
starts.
Year before.
Yeah.
7 starts, had almost 900 yards 2 years ago, and and it was really good. So, and then they have the guy with Kenny McIntosh was the seventh overall recruit coming out. When he came in. So Georgia, or I'm sorry, Iowa State has some running backs there. In Ames.
They do. And Brees Hall is an absolute baller. And I mean, you get to this Iowa State team has maybe the best defense in college football. They're right up there with Utah and Alabama and Ohio State for best defense in the country. They have Brock Purdy at quarterback, who's an absolute stud, runs that offense to near perfection. And then they have Brees Hall, who last year in 10 games ran for almost 1,600 yards. Brees Hall is an absolute stud. They bring in as well a really solid backup in Jarrell Brock. And then they have true freshman Eli Sanders, who was a 3-star recruit, but he was really good in the spring game. And he can be the power guy that comes in the red zone and give the running back room a different look. This group has power, it has speed, it has agility, it has depth, and it has maybe the best running back in the country. Like we said, I love this Iowa State group, and I love this Iowa State team, and I'm excited to talk about them on Friday because I really think they're contenders.
Yeah, they certainly look like it, and they look really strong, and their running back room is just as good as the entire team looks. And we'll talk a little more about them on Friday, but their defense looks strong as well. So, having a good running back room, with a strong defense certainly helps you out if you're the head coach at Iowa State, because you're going to have the Big 12 is not easy. You got to go up against teams like Oklahoma, among others. So it's going to be tough for Iowa State, but they look really good.
Yeah, they do. They really do. Speak of the devil in the Big 12, number 4 is the Oklahoma Sooners. Kennedy Brooks in 2019 had over 1,000 yards, but opted out in last season. He comes back now. They also bring in Eric Gray, who ran for 1,300 yards in 2 years at Tennessee. And then they also bring in the transfer Marcus Major, who had one start as a redshirt freshman. Mikey Henderson, he's actually a converted tight end that they're turning into a red zone running back, but he's 222 pounds. He'll bring some size and strength into that running back room. But Kennedy Brooks, a lot of people kind of forgetting how good he was before he opted out last year. He might not be, the caliber of Brees Hall or, Master Teague or some of these top tier running backs in the country. But Kennedy Brooks is absolutely solid, and he's going to give Spencer Rattler a very solid running back out of the backfield.
Yeah, he is, and it certainly helps if you're a guy like, I know USC isn't on this, and it isn't in this top 15, but if you're a guy like Slovis, if you're a guy like Rattler, if you're a guy like Ritter at Cincinnati, having a strong running back room behind you is really important, and kind of taking the pressure off.
It sure is. Oklahoma, and like we said, Brooks is a stud. Brooks is an absolute star. But it's not just Kennedy Brooks, and that's what makes this Oklahoma room difficult. Kennedy Brooks can't play every down, but they bring in Eric Gray, who was really solid at Tennessee. They bring in Marcus Major. They bring in Mikey Henderson, who can run in goal line situations. This Oklahoma team has depth, and that's credit to Lincoln Riley. He's done a really good job filling this position since he got to Oklahoma.
He has, and Lincoln Riley is a guy who's develops. We talked about quarterbacks. He's developed, quarterbacks and good ones in insane numbers, and that's gotten him looks at the NFL. But it's been said that Lincoln Riley doesn't want to leave college football. He doesn't want to leave Oklahoma, and quite frankly, I don't blame him, because he's having a tremendous amount of success there at Oklahoma. So, and Brooks, Gray, and they bring in Major, or I'm sorry, they have Major as well, and then they add the tight end Henderson. So this running back room looks real strong.
Yeah, it does. Let's move on to number 5. And it's another team in the Big 12, Parker. The Big 12 running backs are a common theme in the Big 12. It's the Texas Longhorns. Bijan Robinson, this is a guy I'm really, really, really excited for. He was the number 4 running back in the country, ahead of guys like James Cook and Kennedy McIntosh, who are both really, really solid. But he only ran in 7 games as a true freshman. Had 703 yards on 8.2 yards a carry. This guy has big play potential every time he touches the football. They bring back Rashawn Johnson, who ran for 1,000 yards in 2 years since he moved to running back. He was a former quarterback recruit. And then they add in Keelan Robinson, who ran for 250 yards at Alabama under Sarkisian's offense as a true freshman, but he averaged 6.5 yards a carry. So this Texas running back room doesn't have a ton of experience. Their most experienced guy being Johnson, who's a former quarterback. But Robinson, both the Robinsons and Keelan and Bijan, huge big play potential. This Texas team could have a lot of big rushing touchdowns this year.
Yeah, they could, and for especially for Robinson, who had over 250 yards as a freshman at Alabama, which is really strong, and to come out and play that well in a Saban offense who's not known for getting playing time until your sophomore, junior, senior year. To do that as a true freshman is really fantastic. But this Texas backfield looks really good with Robinson, who was the number 4 recruit coming out when he came in to Austin there. So I'm loving this Texas running back room. Sarkisian is going to have a lot of fun.
Let's get on to Sarkisian's former squad, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They lose the Doak Walker Award winner, obviously, Najee Harris, but they're loaded. They have Brian Robinson. He ran for 1,300 yards over the last couple of years behind some great running backs. He's going to get a chance to start this year, Parker, after 4 years of being a backup. He waited his turn, and he's going to get rewarded under Nick Saban. They also bring in Jace McClellan, who was the number 5 running back in the country last year. He had 250 yards as a true freshman. And then they bring in Trey Sanders, who was, the number 1 running back in the country as well. Kamar Wheaton, number 2, and Roydell Williams, number 14. So they have the depth there. They have the talent. They have the potential. But it will be the duo of Robinson and McClellan that lead the way. But it's Alabama, man. They're good everywhere.
Right. And you expect Alabama's, all of their position groups to be loaded because they're Alabama. And this one's no different. Like you said, the two-headed monster of Robinson and McClellan is going to be, the main guys that we see. But there are going to be other guys sprinkled in there to get get their feet wet there in Tuscaloosa.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just think about the last, decade or so of running backs at Alabama. You went from Trent Richardson to Derrick Henry to Josh Jacobs to Najee Harris. So, I mean, it's not like Alabama struggled for running backs. Their last 4 big-name running backs have been first-round picks in the NFL.
Yeah, and deservingly so. They've all been fantastic. We saw what Derrick Henry has done. He's turned himself into the best running back in football. Trent Richardson was kind of a flop. I think that was a fluke. But that's the one exception that they have. And then they've had Mark Ingram there as well at Alabama, who was really good. So there's no shortage of talented running backs there in Alabama.
And Derrick Henry is obviously, a star, next level. But Josh Jacobs, a really solid starting running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. He's been really good in his first 2 years in the NFL. And I know he hasn't taken a snap yet in Pittsburgh, but Najee Harris looks like he's going to be really, really good as well.
Yeah, he does. And coming out last year, there, he had a shot at the Heisman, and he was, deservingly so, really good. And they're there in Tuscaloosa for Saban. So it'll be interesting to see how Robinson and McClellan come out. I expect them to be really good because the Alabama running backs have been good throughout history. It seems like you said. So this is going to be a fun one.
Let's get to number 7, Notre Dame. This is maybe one of my 5 favorite running backs in the country, Parker, and it's Kieran Williams, in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He was a redshirt freshman last year, Parker, former number 29 running back in his class. So he was a 3-star recruit. Didn't have a ton of hype surrounding him. He ran for 1,100 yards as a redshirt freshman, and he's going to be the guy in South Bend this year. Chris Tyree lived up to his 5-star hype. Had 500 yards as a true freshman on almost 7 yards a carry. They also have Sebo Flemister, one of the best names in college football. He's also ran for 460 yards. And then they add in the true freshmen Audric Estime and Logan Diggs. They have depth, but I'm really excited to see Kieran Williams' growth continue. This is a guy that not a lot of people believed in, but Notre Dame gave him a shot. Brian Kelly, he's rewarded him so far. And I think this dude, he's just built like an absolute tank. I think this guy's a star in the making, and I think we see it this year in South Bend.
I did too. And as a redshirt freshman to come out and rush for 1,100 yards is really good. And Brian Kelly's got to be loving that. And then Tyree comes in and has almost 500 as a true freshman. So, there's no shortage of talented running backs in South Bend. And then you add in, Diggs and his teammate as well. So Brian Kelly's, sitting pretty up there in South Bend.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's move on to the Buckeyes at number 8. The first time we've talked about Ohio State this season, or I should say, in these topics, their quarterback obviously didn't make the list because it's probably going to be C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud hasn't played a lot in college, so it makes sense that he wouldn't be in the top 15. But the running backs are very, very good, and when we get to receivers, I expect them to be high on that list as well. Master Teague is going to be the guy this year. He's ran for 1,300 yards on almost 5.5 a carry over the last 2 years. Excuse me. Former 3-star recruit is Teague. He wasn't as big of a recruit as guys like Ezekiel Elliott and guys like J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber, but he's done his job at Ohio State. Steel Chambers and Mion Williams have both been very solid. Steel Chambers, a 4-star recruit they're excited about. But let's not forget, Parker, they added in the number 1 running back in the country this year, as well as, the number 5 overall recruit at any position, TreVeyon Henderson. This is going to be the next J.K. Dobbins, the next Ezekiel Elliott at Ohio State. This kid runs all over every defense he's ever gone up against. The Big Ten's a different animal, but TreVeyon Henderson is a very exciting running back. Teague's going to be the guy at the start, but by the end of the year, don't be surprised if TreVeyon Henderson's getting the majority of the carries.
Yeah, I'm not going to be surprised either. And Teague's going to come out, and I think he'll play well for Ryan Day. But TreVeyon Henderson comes in as the top guy at the running back position. So this is a guy who is, like you said, the next Zeke Elliott, the next Dobbins. So they certainly want to see what they have in Henderson. So like you said, I think Teague's going to start, but I'm not going to be surprised at all to see Henderson mixed in there.
And he's just got that kind of big play potential and that kind of talent. I mean, he's going to be, a 19-year-old true freshman in week 1 here in, about a month, a little more than a month. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if he got 10 carries in week 1. I mean, Ryan Day just wants to see what he's got in this kid. This kid could be a future Heisman contender. I mean, for all we know, he could be the next Najee Harris, Travis Etienne. I mean, he's that good. He has the potential to be the best running back in college football here in a year or two.
He does, and it's going to be interesting to see how Ryan Day utilizes him, especially this year with Teague being the presumptive starter there in Columbus.
Number 9. This is a fun one, Parker. App State. App State lost their starter after 5 games last year, but Cameron Peoples stepped up. He was their 9th consecutive 1,000 yards rusher. He had 1,100 yards on almost 7 yards a carry. Daytrick Harrington has 1,200 career rushing yards. He had 500, almost 600 last year, and Nate Noel ran for 500 as well. They also add in the Notre Dame transfer, Jahmir Smith. So the depth is there. This is an App State team that loves to run the football a lot. They're going for their 10th straight 1,000-yard back. And I think Cameron Peoples is up to the challenge. He was great last year, and the duo of him and Harrington I think is going to be a very solid one for App State. I'm excited to talk about App State when we get to the Sun Belt. It's a team that I like a lot, and it's a team that I wouldn't be surprised if they snuck into the top 25 again this year. But their running backs are really, really strong.
Yeah, they are, and it's going to be really fun to see what they come out and do. And they have Peoples there coming in, so as well as Harrington who has I lost my spot. What happened? They have Peoples and Harrington. So and then they add in the Notre Dame transfer Jahmir Smith. So this running back room for the Mountaineers is looking really strong.
It is. Number 10, Arizona State, Herm Edwards. The Sun Devils were inexperienced last year, but they add in the JUCO Rashad White. He had 420 rushing yards in 4 games last year on 10 yards a carry. Trip Trayanum, he had almost 300 yards as a true freshman. And then they also had Daniel Nada, who added 100 as well. Those 3 would have combined for almost 2,500 rushing yards over a full season. This Arizona State team, Herm Edwards loves to run the old school kind of West Coast offense. So I expect this team to run a lot, especially with an inexperienced quarterback. this year. We talked about Arizona State on Friday with the Pac-12. It's a team that's not as experienced at quarterback as some other teams in this conference, like Washington, like USC, like UCLA, like Utah. It's a team that has kind of a question mark at the quarterback spot, but they do not have a question mark at running back. I'd expect to see Herm Edwards, run as much as he possibly can the first half of the year.
Yeah, I think he will too. They're so the Herm Edwards has always been a ground and pound kind of style head coach. So I expect no different from the Sun Devils. They're gonna ride Rashad White as much as they can. And then they have train them and they gotta back them up. So this running back room for in Tempe for Herm Edwards is going to be a strong one.
Number 11, Auburn Tigers, another one of the top tier running backs names in college football, Parker. Tank Bigsby. Anytime you're a running back named Tank, I mean, you're set up for greatness. He had a really good freshman year last year, had 830 yards on 6 yards a carry. Sean Shivers as well had 930 rushing yards over a 3-year career. They add in the true freshman, Jarquez Hunter, who is a 4-star recruit, very powerful guy, very strong, big play potential. And then they add in the Central Michigan transfer, Jordan Ingram. And they also have Devin Barrett, who, as a 5th-string running back, the former, number 17 running back in his class, really good depth to have. So Bigsby's going to be the guy, and Bigsby looks like a future top-tier SEC running back in the making. But having the depth in Shivers and then the freshman Hunter, I'm excited to see. I think Bigsby and Hunter could be the next great SEC running back duo.
Yeah, they could. And talk about some fun names tonight. First we had Sibo, and now we have Tank. So this is a fun one so far. But for Auburn, this running back room looks awesome. Bigsby had a really good year last year with 834 yards. 6 yards a carry and then Shivers had 933. Over his career. So. They got a good running back room there at Auburn.
Well, I told you, Parker. I mean, I said, Bigsby. I mean, if you're a running back and your name is Tank, you're just set up for success. I mean, his parents knew exactly what they were doing, and now he gets to reap the benefits by being a running back in college football named Tank. He's probably going to get drafted in the NFL just because he's a running back named Tank.
Yeah, possibly, and it wouldn't surprise me to see that because if I'm a head coach, I'm going to give the ball to a Tank, and his name is literally Tank, so he's getting the ball as much as possible.
Absolutely. Number 12, Penn State. Penn State had a very unique situation a year ago. They lost their number 1 rusher due to a medical retirement in Noah Cain. They had a freshman-filled running back room after that. Kayvon Lee, he led with almost 440 yards, and they also had Devin Ford, who added 275. Keziah Holmes had 230. All 4 of them return and now have experience. And they added the transfer from Baylor, John Lovett, who led them for 3 straight years. So expect to see Lovett get a lot of carries right off the bat, establish himself maybe as the number 1 running back in Happy Valley. But they have a lot of really good depth, really exciting depth in Kayvon Lee, Devin Ford, and Keziah Holmes. So it was a rough year last year for Penn State running backs and really Penn State in general. But I expect them to bounce back this year. That running back room looks very solid, and they're very young with a high ceiling.
Yeah, they are, and James Franklin has got to be loving life here. And like you said, Kane's going to start, but they bring in Lovett and. And they have some guys coming back. So this depth for James Franklin at Happy Valley is like you said, almost quite possibly the best depth in the Big Ten, possibly in the entire country.
Maybe. Oregon, number 13. C.J. Verdell ran for 1,200 yards in 2019, as well as Travis Dye having almost 700 last year. Verdell was the number 2 and Dye was the number 1. So they switched it up a little bit. They were both good again behind an experienced offensive line. This year, they're both back, running behind a veteran offensive line after kind of struggling last year behind an experienced offensive line. And they add in the true freshman, Seven McGee, as well, and Byron Cardell. And they also have redshirt freshman Sean Dollars. It'll be interesting to see who gets the majority of the carries between Dye and Verdell. Verdell more of the big playmaker, shifty guy. Travis Dye more of the I'll run over you and take the strong physical runner. I think they both have their purposes in that offense with Mario Cristobal. I wouldn't be surprised if they split carries 50-50, but it's a really strong duo and probably the best in the Pac-12.
Yeah, and like you said, they're going to run more of a two-headed monster type scheme here for the running backs with Verdell and Dye. And then they have quality depth with McGee, Cardwell, and a heck of another name, Sean Dollars, backing up those top two guys.
Absolutely. Georgia Southern comes in at 14. J.D. King had 625 yards in just 7 starts in 2020. Logan Wright stepped up and also had 600 yards, and Gerald Green added almost 450. All three of them are back, and they add in Amari Jones, who had 400 yards in 2 games at Tulane before an injury ended his season. So that's 4 running backs with big play potential, Parker. All 4 of them averaging 5.5 yards or more per carry. I expect to see Georgia Southern run the ball a lot this year, and I'm excited already for this Georgia Southern App State game coming up in the Sun Belt when we see guys like Cameron Peoples and Daytrick Harrington go up against Logan Wright and J.D. King. I mean, that's maybe the 2 best running back rooms in the Sun Belt and 2 of the better teams in the Sun Belt. That's going to be a really fun game when those 2 teams match up.
Yeah, it will, and it's going to be a fun one for sure. King had like you said, 625 yards in 7 games. And then they had Wright come in and play well after he, after King, was injured. So they have 3 quality running backs. Adding in Green here at Georgia Southern.
They sure do. Number 15, the final one we'll talk about today, the South Carolina Gamecocks. South Carolina had to replace their top 3 running backs last year, and then projected starter Marshawn Lloyd tore his ACL. Kevin Harris took over and ran for 1,100 yards in just 10 games. And they also have another elite name, Parker, Zaquandre White, who has a great combination of size and speed. He can run over you. He can beat you to the edge. So Marshawn Lloyd coming back. They'll probably ease him in after a very bad knee injury. But the duo of Harris and White look really strong. And once they get Lloyd back as well, it's a running game that the SEC is going to have to respect.
Yeah, it is. And South Carolina is going to have, not easy because they're in the ACC that, an ACC conference that's really strong. And with Clemson as the top dog, you got to find a way to play well and come in and be successful. And I think they're going to do that. They have, like you said, they have Kevin Harris and had 1,100 yards in 10 games. And then they also have Zaquandre White, who is going to play really well for South Carolina, and I'm expecting a big year from South Carolina because they have quality running backs, and if you have quality running backs, there's always a chance for you to be strong. So South Carolina is going to be fun, and I'm excited to see what they come out and do here. They come out this fall.
Absolutely. I mean, we're still a few weeks away from talking Big Ten and SEC, Parker, but I'm already, drooling about breaking down all these SEC and Big Ten schools. I mean, all of these teams you talk about, I mean, obviously every conference has its, bottom dwellers with teams like Rutgers and Illinois, and in the SEC, teams like Vanderbilt and Kentucky, and even, like somebody like, even Tennessee, I guess you could throw in there over recent years, but just the quality of competition in the SEC, for example, we talked about South Carolina has one of the best running back rooms in the country, and they're a mid-tier team in the SEC. You have LSU, you have Florida, you have Georgia. I mean, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, with Lane Kiffin, as well as Alabama, Auburn, and Texas A&M. I mean, the SEC is just a great conference, and the same goes for the Big Ten, where in the East you have maybe the most dominant conference division in college football with Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, as well as Illinois and Indiana. And then in the West, you still have teams like Wisconsin, Nebraska, Northwestern, and Iowa. So Just so much talent across the board in all these big conferences, and I'm really, really excited to break them down because I feel like you could put half of those teams anywhere between like 3 and 11.
Right, and I said South Carolina was in the ACC. They're not in the ACC. That was my mistake. But the SEC is always fun, and like you said, the Big Ten is as well. So, like you said, there's so much possibility for the what we think is the 3 team could be like an 8 team. What we think is the a lower like a basement team could be in the 4 or 5. So this conference is fun. Outside of the top teams in the conference in Georgia and Alabama, it's really just it's a dogfight for the rest of those spots in that conference. So it's going to be fun.
It sure is. We have about 20 minutes left here in hour number one, so we're going to get this tier list started, and we'll do what we can before the hour ends, and we will finish it up to start hour number two. So let me share my screen once again. But here we go. NBA logos, Parker. I'm excited for this one because I like a lot of these. The only issue is, and I'm actually going to fix this right now, live on the air, is I'm going to add an S tier because I think we deserve to have an S tier. What do you think?
Yeah, of course.
How do
We
you feel?
obviously need an S tier because what's the point of a tier list if there's no best of the best?
Absolutely. What color do you want the S tier to be?
It doesn't matter to me.
Good Lord, you're no help. Fine. Okay, we're going light blue because blue's my favorite color. Okay, we're gonna start off with our favorite team, Parker, the Pacers. Where would you put Indiana's logo?
I'm gonna put it as a B tier logo. I love the classic P with the basketball inside it is it's classic, and I personally think it's one of the more easy ones to recognize in all of basketball.
Hmm. I agree. I think B tier would be where I'd put it as well. I like the color scheme. The outside maybe a little simple, and that's what keeps it, I think, below A. But like you said, that P with the basketball in it's just iconic, and it screams Indiana Pacers. And I think that's really what a logo is meant to do is, you know, put that what separates you from other organizations. So let's do an easy one, Parker. Get it out of the way. LA Lakers, just drag it on up to S tier. Simple basketball with the Los Angeles Lakers over it, but the color scheme, the purple and gold, the history behind that logo, the history behind that brand, it's obviously S tier, no doubt
It
about it.
it is, and it's we've done these logos tier lists before, and it's one of the most recognizable logos among the entire globe, and you can't go anywhere without seeing Lakers fans anywhere. I was in an airport in Puerto Rico and I saw a Los Angeles Lakers T-shirt on a somebody from Puerto Rico. So that you can go anywhere in the world and you'll run into a Lakers fan. I guarantee you.
Absolutely. Um, let's go with a team that's in the finals right now, Parker. The Phoenix Suns. I like the Suns logo. I love the purple, orange, and gold. I don't know if you'd call it gold, really. I guess it's more yellow with the sun. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? Um, but I think it's kind of that simple parallelogram vibe. Look at me using geometry vocab. But I think the basketball going through the sun is a very cool, unique kind of thing. And I think their color scheme is slightly better than the Pacers. I'm going to put it in A tier.
I agree with you, and your geometry teachers must be proud of you right about now.
Probably
But
not. They remember my grade.
but yeah, like you said, the purple and orange and yellow color scheme is fantastic. As much as I love the Pacers, the Suns got them beat here.
All right. Well, let's move on to who do we want to do next? This is this even the Rockets logo? I don't think I've ever seen this used as the Rockets logo. I've never seen a basketball around it.
I haven't either. It's always been that R with the ring around it.
I'm just gonna base it on the R with the ring around it. I think it's a C tier. Um, I like the Rockets branding behind it. I think it's cool. It screams Houston Rockets, but for me, a little simple. The ring's cool, but it's just a red R at the end of the day. And compared to some of these other teams' logos, I mean, it's not bad, but it doesn't separate itself the way some other teams do.
Right, and red, personally, I think is a very basic color for any sports team. So it's going to be C tier for me also. The red, like I said, it's pretty basic, but I like how they incorporate the team name, the Rockets, with the fading on the end of R and the ring around it.
Mm-hmm. Another one that I really like, Parker, that I'm gonna throw into a tier that I did not really think I'd throw it into until I compared it to other ones on this list. Charlotte Hornets. I love the new color scheme with the teal and the kind of darker blue, the two shades of blue. It looks great. It pops. I love the new look Charlotte Hornets, and I love this Hornet logo, Buzz City, whatever you want to call it. This is an A tier logo. I love the new branding of the Charlotte Hornets.
Wow, that's a surprising one for me. I like I like their branding. I'm just not a big fan of I love the blue. I just don't think purple, that darker blue slash indigo slash purple, whatever you want to call it. I just don't think it goes well with it. It's going to be a C tier logo for me.
Okay. Okay. Difference of opinion is allowed. That's fine. Uh,
Is it allowed or is it encouraged?
I'd say, I mean, it depends, I guess. I'd say it's encouraged, though. Let's get another
Yes.
one out of the way. This one's easy. The Fighting Michael Jordans, Chicago Bulls. This is S tier. It's S tier because of its history. It's S tier because of its branding. It screams. I mean, you look at this, you know it's the Chicago Bulls. But it's also S tier because it's unique. I love the bull with the horns. It's very unique. The color scheme of the red and black is just absolutely iconic. And obviously, like I said, the Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen era put this logo in S tier probably for all time. I mean, the Chicago Bulls, everything Bulls. I feel like uniforms, arena, logo, whatever. I feel like everything Bulls now has enough history to it where it's S tier.
What he said. No, I'm joking, but yeah, it's obviously iconic for all the reasons you just stated. The Michael Jordan era, the Phil Jackson's Bulls, is created. It really took the NBA to new levels, and it all has to go back to what the Bulls have been, and they have propelled, like I said, the NBA to new levels, and it's an S tier logo.
Absolutely. Let's do another one that I really like. The Golden State Warriors. The blue and the yellow. I don't have to like the Warriors roster, but I do like their logo. The blue and yellow is absolutely beautiful. I think it's a great color scheme. I love their new arena and the just simple silhouette of the Golden Gate Bridge. It's simple, but it's really effective, and I think it screams San Francisco, California. With the combination of the color scheme, the logo, and the branding that comes with it, I think it goes in A tier for me.
Yeah, it's pretty close. If we had an A minus tier, I'd put it in there, but I'm leaning towards more towards A tier for this one. I love the blue and yellow combination. It screams it screams California, and like you said, the silhouette of the Golden Gate Bridge is iconic. So this is an A tier logo for me also.
Okay, all right. I'm glad. Let's get on to this one. This one, I'm gonna put it in C tier. It's tough for me because I really do like the vibe that comes off the J. It's hard to see on this. They picked a really bad picture for this, but it's hard to see in the J. It's like the music note, where they have the basketball, but it's like built like a music note. That's kind of cool. It's been 4 years since I took AP Music Theory, but I think that's a 16th note. I'd have to double check. But I love that in the J, but the rest of it's just very simple. And although I like the Jazz's color scheme, especially their city jerseys, which we'll get into, with that orange, that kind of like sunset kind of vibe. Um, this is just kind of simple for me. It's a simple blue. And although the J is really cool, I think it doesn't carry the rest of this logo. So it's a C tier logo for me.
I'm gonna put this in B tier. I like this one because it's unique. It's different. And I love the music note that's the J on this logo. And I'm a big Utah Jazz fan. So I love their logo and their branding. It's the only professional team that Utah has ever had, and they worshipped Utah Jazz out there like they're their god there. So it's a B tier logo for me. I'm a fan of it.
All right. Well, we're gonna let you take the reins on the next two, Parker. We're gonna do two Eastern Conference teams, the Pistons and the Bucks. So I'll let you start with Detroit. Where would you put them?
I'm gonna honestly put this in D tier. Yeah, I just think it's pretty boring. I like the name, the Pistons. It goes very well with the the Motor City vibe there in Detroit. But I just think the red and blue is kind of just it's more expected for a team like really any team that exists. Red and blue is a very common color scheme. So I love their team name. I'm just not a big fan of their logo and branding.
Yeah, their color scheme's cool. I like it, the red and blue. But like you said, I think they could use a new logo. I think that I get that they were trying to do kind of the basketball, but I don't know really what their vision was here. I mean, it'd be nice to see some sort of tie to the Motor City, to the automobile, whatever they decide to do. But this is, like you said, just kind of simple. And although the color scheme is good, the logo is not, in my opinion. So I agree with you that it belongs in D. What about the Milwaukee Bucks? Let's get the other finals team out of the way. Where are you putting Deer?
I'm gonna put this in B tier. I love this logo because I love the big the deer, the big buck with I think the antlers make it just pop. I love the gold and the the darker green color scheme. It's B tier for me. I like it.
I like it a lot too. I think the logo itself is A tier, but I think the color scheme keeps it in B. The green and cream is nice. It's not bad, but I think there's better color schemes in the NBA that keep it down in B. So next, let's do the Cleveland Cavaliers. I like this one a lot too, Parker. I'm gonna put it in B as well. I love the color scheme of the wine and gold. They have the black as well, and that kind of shield in the background. They have the sword going through the sea. I love the font on the sea as well on this logo. The Cavaliers have been an absolutely terrible basketball team over the last couple of years. But that branding they did, that branding redo, the remodel that they did when LeBron came back to town, going from that old kind of lame Cavs logo, it was such a good decision. This is a really nice logo.
I like it a lot too. It's going to be B tier for me as well. I love how they have the shield there. Goes very well with the medieval cavalier vibe that I think they're going for. Plus the red and the dark red and gold color scheme with the sword through the sea is something I like a lot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's do the Miami Heat. This Miami Heat one for me is very iconic, Parker. This ball, the ball going through the ring of fire with the flame at the end. Uh, the Miami Heat logo is one that I think of right off the bat when I think of NBA logos. I mean, for me, it's Celtics, Bulls, Lakers, Knicks, and Heat are probably the five that come to my head. So for that, this one goes in A tier for me, and I'm even going to put it at the top of A tier. It's really close to S tier. Doesn't quite have the history of the four I mentioned alongside it, but the Miami Heat logo is definitely iconic in NBA history.
Yeah, it is, and this is one that I like a lot also. The I just love their team name, the Heat, and it goes perfectly well with the city of Miami. And their color scheme is awesome. That red with the orange is really cool. So it's A tier for me also.
It is. Let's do the Boston Celtics. Let's get this one out of the way. It's another one that's S tier solely based on the history and the um, legacy behind it. I mean, you look at that, you think of any logo, any brand in the NBA, odds are that the first thing that comes to your mind is either Lakers or Celtics. It's probably going to be one of those two. And plus, the logo is pretty solid too. The leprechaun with the cane in one hand and the basketball spinning on his finger in the other. It's just such an iconic logo. The green and white color scheme, it screams Boston, and the Boston Celtics nailed it in this department.
They did, and I like this one a lot, similar because of the similar reason to the Utah Jazz. It's different, it's unique. I love green's one of my favorite colors, and I love how they portray this logo. Like you said, the leprechaun with the basketball on his finger is it's next level, and it's S tier also.
Let's get the last. This will probably be my final S tier of the day, but let's get it out of the way. It's the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks probably my least favorite of the four here in S tier. The orange and blue color scheme's cool, but I'm throwing this one in S tier more for the brand, the history. Madison Square Garden, New York City. You look at that logo and you think, the New York basketball. You think I know that the Nets had a championship caliber team this year, but the Knicks run New York. Let's be real. The Knicks
They
the
do.
Knicks are the team that New York City follows, the team that New York City roots for. And that logo is New York City basketball. And the Knicks don't have quite the same success that the Celtics, Lakers, and Bulls do. But basketball in New York City is still important enough that I think the Knicks logo belongs in S tier.
And it's a similar situation to like baseball. Or actually, we'll just stick with basketball. Los Angeles, the Lakers are the team. Baseball, the Dodgers are the team in Los Angeles. Chicago, the Cubs are the team in Chicago, even though you have the White Sox there. So it's a similar situation here.
Uh-huh.
I love this color scheme for the Knicks. This orange and blue is iconic. Like you said, I don't think it's as iconic as the other three in this tier so far, but it's definitely one of the more recognizable ones.
Right. And like you said with New York City, I mean, as much as I dislike them, New York's always going to be a Yankees town. I mean, the Mets can do whatever they want, but New York's always going to be a Yankees town. Same thing with the Knicks and the Nets. The Nets can go out and sign Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Steph Curry, but it's still going to be a Knicks town at the end of the day.
It is, and it's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way.
It sure is. So we have about, let me double check here. We have about 3 minutes here left in hour number one. So we have enough time for about three more. So I'll let you pick the three that we do to end the first hour.
One of my favorites here, in this, in the entirety of the NBA, and that's the Toronto Raptors. I love this one, and the scratch marks in the basketball are iconic. It's an A tier logo for me, Shay. I like it.
I like it too. I love, like you said, it's different because it has the raptor marks in the basketball, and the move that they made to the red, white, and black logo, or the red, white, and black color scheme a couple of years ago. I mean, it was such a good change. Their old logo with the dinosaurs also pretty solid. I'd probably put that one in B. But this one, I think the color scheme is better, and I think it pops more.
Yeah, I completely agree. This one's one of my favorites.
All right, we got two more. I'll let you keep picking. You're on a roll.
Yeah, and another one that I like a lot is the Sacramento Kings, and I love the purple and gray vibe. It's awesome, and it's another one that's different. They're like the Kansas City Royals. They got the crown kind of vibe going on, with the basketball on the bottom. So this one I like a lot. It's B tier for me.
All right, I love the Kings color scheme: purple, white, gray. I love their future as well with guys like Marvin Bagley, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield. Uh, it's a fun team to watch and a fun team to watch play basketball. They make some mistakes, but it's because they're young. But I agree with you. I like the crown vibe. I like that the basketball is kind of underneath the crown, like where the head would be. And it's a solid logo. It's not at the caliber of the ones that we have in SNA, but it's really solid, no doubt about it. All right, final one of hour number one, and then we will have our final 12, 13, I guess, just to kick off hour number two.
One thing that, for this next one, I love the name of the team. It's awesome, but I think their logo is just kind of bland, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think it's going to be a C tier logo for me. I love the team name and I love their color scheme, the blue, orange, and white, but the logo is just kind of bland for me.
Yeah, I don't think they incorporated the basketball quite the way that they should have. It almost looks hidden in that. I think the OKC looks really good. It pops, but that kind of shield behind it with the basketball just seems kind of misplaced to me. And I think that they need to pick a better font for the Thunder up top. So I think it has potential, but I agree with you. I think it's kind of a meh logo. And it's very similar to the Rockets, where I think it has a few things that make it nice, but not enough to make it special. All right. Well, that's hour number one in the books. We will stop recording or stop sharing the tier list for now, and we will resume with sharing that when we get back from the commercial break. So we're going to step away, hit our legal ID here to end hour number one, so Patrick doesn't yell at me from the studio. But we hope you're enjoying the show so far. When we come back, we're going to finish this tier list of NBA logos. We're going to get into the MLB standings at the All-Star break. What a year for the Giants. What a year for, the Chicago White Sox. What a year for the Boston Red Sox. And the NL Central is a dogfight right now between the Brewers and the Reds. So we're going to talk about all those teams at the top and some of the teams that are, towards the bottom that we've kind of been disappointed in so far. So a lot to get into still, and the NBA Finals as well. So a lot to get into still, 60 more minutes to hang out with us. So we hope you don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a few. Keep it real. Keep it locked. We'll be back in a few. Back here on Keep It Real for hour number two. How are all of you? Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the show. We still have a lot to get into today. We're finishing up our NBA logos tier list. We got to get into the MLB standings here at the All Star break, as well as the NBA Finals, Game 3 in the books, and we got a series. So, a lot to get into here in the final 55 minutes of the show. We appreciate you hanging out with us, though, right here every weekday from 1 to 3. I'm not going to waste any time because we got so much to get into. So I'm going to go back to sharing the screen, and we are going to pick up right where we left off here with this tier list. So if you're just now joining us so far, Lakers, Bulls, Celtics, Knicks, and S tier, Heat, Suns, Hornets, Warriors, Raptors, and A tier for me. Parker did have the Hornets down a little bit further in C tier. Pacers, Bucks, Cavs, Kings in B, Rockets in C, as well as the Thunder. He had the Jazz in B. I have the Jazz in C, and then we both agreed that the Pistons are in D. So a few subtle differences, but overall we've agreed mostly on this tier list. So I will start off, Parker, with the Timberwolves. I like the Timberwolves logo. I like their color scheme with the blue and the gray. And I like the wolf kind of howling at the basketball in the background, treating it like it's the moon. I think it's a cool vibe. I'm going to put it in B. It's not spectacular. It's not a logo that makes me think of the NBA, but it's really cool. I like it.
I do too. I do too. It's going to be B tier for me as well. I'm just, yeah, like you said, I like their color scheme. I like the wolf vibe that they have going on. It's a pretty solid logo.
Let's move on to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is tough for me, man. I'm going to put it in C tier. I love the history that comes with the 76ers. And I love the colors, the red, white, and blue. I mean, it's about as USA as it gets in Philadelphia, but it's too plain for me. The red and the blue ring, the stars are cool, but it's just a white basketball with the red and blue over it. It's for a team with so much history and a team with so much potential. I expect more, if I'm being honest, and that's why I'm putting it in C tier.
I'm with you. Like you said, it's pretty boring and kind of plain. And I agree with that. Like you said, they're a strong team, and they had a great season this past year. But like you said, I expect something that pops a bit more from a team that has the type of history and the type of talent that they do right now.
Let's do one that I really like, and it's a team that we both love because of their best player, the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks, I absolutely love. I think they're the best color scheme in the league when it comes to blue and white. I think they do it better than anyone else. That includes the Timberwolves. That includes the Grizzlies, the Magic. Throw anyone that tries to do blue and white. I think Dallas does it the best. And then the horse with the blue basketball and the shield with the Mavericks on it. It's so good. And it's one of the logos that, I mean, I don't think Dallas Mavericks when I think NBA, but when I see this logo, I know exactly who it is and I know exactly what it's meant to be. So for that, I'm going to put it at the tail end of A. I would also understand top of B. But I think that they've earned the right to be A tier just because of how unique it is.
Yeah, and that's a common theme with me. I like the different team names, the different team logos. Something that we that's different, and the Mavericks certainly are different. It's a different kind of team name, a Maverick. And then they have the blue and white and gray color scheme, which I like a lot. So it's going to be in a very similar spot.
Let's do the Washington Wizards. Very similar to, the Pistons and the Pacers and the Raptors and the Timberwolves with this kind of circle vibe. They do have the red, white, and blue as well. I think theirs is a little bit better than Philly because the ball has that blue kind of fade to it with the star in the middle. I think they also did a little bit better with that ring on the outside with the kind of red, white, and blue vibe to it. But I don't think it's good enough to put up here with these ones in B. So it's still C for me, but I will put it ahead of the Sixers. I think it is better than Phillies.
I'm gonna put it in B tier. I
Okay.
like this one a lot. I like how they incorporated the Washington Monument there in the middle, with the star on top, and then like you said, they're doing the same kind of circular thing that is becoming a common theme here. But I like this one, and the Wizards is certainly a different a different team name and different team mascot, and I like this one a lot. It's going to be B tier for me, probably ahead of the King or ahead of the Timberwolves, but behind the Kings.
Okay. But I'll let you take the reign on this next one, Parker. It's another circle team, but it's the Atlanta Hawks. Where would you put the Hawks?
You know, I I'm not a big fan of their color scheme, but I like how they're doing the circular kind of the circular vibe again here. But I like how they have that hawk right there in the middle, which I like. It's going to be B tier for me.
Okay. I like that. I like simplicity in this logo. I think it works. Just Atlanta Hawks basketball club. The hawk in the middle, like you said, it's not extra. It's not them trying to do too much. It makes sense. It works. And with a team with as much history as the Atlanta Hawks, I think that's all you need is something that works. And I think this works well. So I go with B tier as well. Um, the LA Clippers love the color scheme. They have the red, white, and blue, not, USA vibes like the Sixers or the Wizards, but more kind of um, with they used to do kind of red as the primary, and now they honestly do more blue as the primary. But they also have those black and white uniforms that they wear on City Night, and that's just absolute. Those are gorgeous. Those are some of my favorite uniforms in the league. Their logo, however, good, not great. I like the ball. I love the LAC logo here on the ball, but the Clippers underneath it kind of plain for me. It's going to go in B. I like it more than I think the Kings, maybe even the Cavs. It might be at the top of B for me. It's good, but it's not great. Great color scheme, elite uniforms. Logo solid, but not spectacular.
Yeah, it's gonna be B tier for me as well. I probably put it in between the Cavs and the Bucks, but I like their color scheme. The red and the blue. I think it pops more than like you said the Pistons or the Wizards or the Sixers, but and those black uniforms are gorgeous. But it's just kind of a basic logo here for the Clippers.
It is. I'll let you take the reins on this one, Parker. See what you think. The San Antonio Spurs, obviously a team with a lot of history, a team with a lot of success to their name, but their logo. What do you think about it?
I love it. I've been a big fan of unique, different, and this is certainly different. It's a spur. It's the back of a boot. Cowboys wear or anybody wear. Anyone who wears boots like that. They wear. A lot of people wear spurs. So I love how they incorporated an actual spur within the U here. It's going to be A tier for me, and I love their gray and black kind of color scheme. I think it really pops.
Yeah,
This one I love a lot.
yeah, I like it too. I think that it's really, really unique. I like the behind it. I like the what's the word I'm looking for? I like just their black and gray color scheme. I think it works. It's simple, but I think it works. And this team just has so much history to it. Like you said, it's a team that knows what they are, knows what they represent, and they don't try to stray away from that. And I think it works. And I think that you think of 7, 8 franchises off the top of your head in the NBA. Odds are the Spurs are going to be one of them.
Yeah, and you think NBA, you think of Lakers, you think Celtics, you think Bulls, and Knicks even. But when you think of coaches, you think who's the first coach NBA you think of? You think of
Oh,
Greg Popovich,
mm-hmm.
and Greg Popovich has been the San Antonio Spurs coach for forever. It seems like so. And that's the first thing you associate the Spurs with,
Yeah.
Pop and Tim Duncan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Parker, you just spontaneously kind of came up with another topic idea for this show. With different sports franchises and different sports and different topics, what's the first thing that pops in your head?
I like it.
I like it too. I mean, like for example, like um, let's do like New York Yankees, Derek Jeter.
Jeter.
Yep. Um, You're a Dodgers fan. Who's the first player that pops in your head as a Dodger?
First, well, when I think Dodgers, I think Lasorda, but first player actually comes to mind for me is Kershaw.
Okay. Um, Cubs for me would probably be Sammy Sosa.
Yeah, I'd probably say Sosa as well. It's either Sosa or Rizzo.
Yeah. And then just to get to some of these NBA teams on this list, like Lakers. For me, my time period, Kobe.
Kobe.
But
Yeah,
I
it's gotta be.
know other people would say Magic or even Jerry West or something like that, and that's fine. But for me, it's Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Kobe is I think Lakers. I think Kobe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bulls, Michael Jordan, easy. Knicks for me is Patrick Ewing. Celtics, I'd say Larry Bird. Um, let's do a tougher one. How about the Wizards? For me, this is gonna make a lot of our more experienced listeners probably angry because of guys like Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes and all those guys. John Wall.
yeah. It's John Wall for me as well, and kind of I think of two people when I think of Knicks basketball. I think of Carmelo Anthony,
Mm-hmm.
and I think of he's not even a player, not even a coach, just a fan. I think of Spike Lee.
Love it. Minnesota Timberwolves. For me, it's Garnett and Kevin Love.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's Garnett for me as well.
All right, well, let's get back to this tier list before we use up all the ones that we can turn into a topic. So, Portland Trailblazers, Parker. I'm torn on this one, so I'm going to let you take the lead on it. I love the color scheme and I like the logo a lot, but I'm curious where you put it.
This one's interesting. I like their colors. I like what their jerseys look like. I'm just not a big fan of this logo. I'm not. It's going to be C tier for me, probably between the Jazz and the Rockets.
Okay. I tend to agree with you. I might have put it at the bottom of B. I love the colors, but like you're right, the spiral, it's just not the same level as some of these other logos on this list. And the color scheme is great, and the Blazers are, a very strong franchise. But the logo just not as notable as some of these other ones on this list. Denver Nuggets. I like this one. The mining vibe to it with the the pick whatever you call those, the picks. The ball at the bottom and the mountain on top. It screams Denver to me. It screams Rocky Mountains. I'm gonna put it in B tier, but I'm gonna put it high in B tier. I like this one a lot.
I do too. You think Denver, you think mountains, you think cold, you think and you think you know you just Nuggets basketball, and they play. They're in Denver at the Pepsi Center, and I like this logo a lot. And I like their colors. The yellow with the navy blue is something I like a lot. And so this one's B tier for me also.
Yeah, I agree. So let's do four more left. The Brooklyn Nets. This one's really hard for me because I think they have some of the best uniforms in the NBA, and I love the simple black and white color scheme. I think it's something that's very traditionalist, but very, something that was missing in the modern NBA. I think a lot of teams were trying to be too flashy, and I love that Brooklyn kind of went old school, and I think it works very, very well. Even the Barclays Center, the gray court, I think it's great. This logo, though, not great. It's solid, but it's just a basketball with a B on it at the end of the day. It's C tier for me.
Yeah, it's C tier for me also. Like you said, I like what the Nets have going on right now. The Barclays Center is awesome, as well as the uniforms that they wear are really cool. But the logo is just it's subpar. So C tier for me also.
Orlando Magic. I'm going to put the Magic in B. I like the kind of almost like the pixie dust, whatever you want to call it, off the end of the basketball with the stars on it. It's simple, but I think it's a nice touch, and I think that blue color makes the ball pop more as well. Their font better than some of the other fonts as well. It's not the best by any means, but it's solid. And when I see that logo, I think it screams Orlando Magic. So I like it a lot.
So do I, and I like the light blue, the black, blue, and white kind of colors. I like a lot. It's different and it's fun, and I love it. The shooting star looking basketball is something that I like a lot as well. So it's going to be B tier for me.
All right, two more to go. Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies one, I thought I'd like more than I do, Parker. It's a cool vibe with the Grizzly, and I respect the fact that they're trying to be unique, but I don't know if it's the color scheme that's making it not as great as I want it to be, but it almost just still seems kind of dull. And for that, I'm going to put it at the top of C because I do think it's more unique than anybody else in C, but it's just a little underwhelming for me for what I wanted.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's I'd probably put this right around right around the Thunder area, but I like you said, the color scheme bothers me. I almost want it to be like an orangish color, but it's kind of I like the the kind of vibe they have going on with the Grizzly here on the front, but I think if they go through a rebranding, they probably should change up the colors a little bit.
Yeah. And then finally, last but not least, the New Orleans Pelicans, the most recent, I shouldn't say team because they were obviously formerly the Hornets, but they switched to the Pelicans. The Pelican is cool. The color scheme is okay. I just don't know, Parker, looking at this logo, how much it says New Orleans. And it's going to go at the bottom of B because I think the Pelican's cool, and I think it's different enough for me to put it in B. But my big problem with this one is a lot of these logos on this list. I look at it, it screams the city that they play in. Like this one screams Philadelphia. This one screams Denver. This one screams San Antonio. This one screams Golden State, San Francisco. This one screams Phoenix. This one screams Boston. This one screams Chicago. This one screams New York. This one screams Miami. I don't know if this one screams New Orleans.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like how they have like the pelican spreading its wings, and that's where they put the New Orleans on there. But it's kind of I don't know what the right right, and I don't know what the word I'm kind of looking for is. I guess random's a good word. It's just kind of it's not what I expected from New Orleans. I'm almost expecting kind of a fun party kind of vibe from this, and I'm not getting it. Pelicans are cool, but I just don't associate Pelicans with the city of New Orleans.
And part of me hates that the Utah already took the Jazz because I think the best thing that New Orleans could do is be the New Orleans Soul and then just have kind of like that, that almost, I don't know how you do the logo, but almost like a saxophone with like a basketball coming out of like the like as a note or something like that. I think that'd be really dope. That screams New Orleans more to me than a Pelican does. When I think New Orleans, I think good music, good food, and parties, like you said.
I think you just earned yourself a job, in the marketing department for the Pelicans. But yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of it's like you said, kind of random, and I think they could use a rebranding there in New Orleans.
No doubt about it. Well, that was the NBA logos tier list. That was fun. I'm glad we got to do it after we didn't have time for it on Friday. But we still have 35 minutes of show left, Parker, and I'm excited for that. So I want to knock out, since we're already on the topic of basketball, let's just knock out the NBA Finals really quick, and we'll do MLB to end the show. Bucks win tonight, big time win. They dominated start to finish, and the biggest reason for that was Giannis Antetokounmpo. This guy, you would not have even. I mean, if I didn't tell you that this guy almost tore his ACL 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have believed it. Because in these last two games, and really this entire series, he's looked like the MVP Giannis of the last couple of years. I mean, it's unbelievable. We knew that this guy was superhuman, built in a lab, all world kind of athlete. But the fact that he almost permanently messed up his leg and he's already playing at this high of a level less than 2 weeks later is just absolutely remarkable.
It is, and he put up 41 and 13 tonight. And you said last week, Shay, that you needed for the if the Bucks wanted to get back in it, they needed to get Drew Holiday going, and that they did. He put up 21 tonight in 40 minutes played with 9 assists.
Mm-hmm.
Middleton didn't have the game that we were that we were accustomed seeing from Middleton. He still had 18, 7, and 6, but they this, like you said, really played through Giannis tonight, and we thought they would, and they did, but even more so than most of us were expecting. We thought Giannis would be kind of on a pitch count here, but Budenholzer is just going to let him go, and I think it's working for him.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, just I don't know. I tweeted about this earlier tonight. I don't get how people dislike Giannis, how people criticize Giannis. I get that he's not LeBron. I get that he's not Kevin Durant, but you're comparing a guy to two generational talents, and I don't think that's necessarily fair all the time. This guy, I mean, is one of the most dominant. He might be, other than LeBron James, this might be the most dominant forward we've seen in the NBA since Shaq. He might be just physically dominant. He takes over games just based on sheer athleticism and skill. And they asked him tonight, if he scores 40 in the next game, he'd become the first player since Michael Jordan to have 4 straight 40-point games in the finals. And so in the post game today, they compared him, to MJ in those finals. And I love Giannis's response. He said, "I'm not Michael Jordan. All I care about right now is getting one more, take care of business." I love that mentality. And that mentality, this Suns team's really good, but if Giannis keeps that mentality, watch out. He might win a championship.
Yeah, and that's confidence, and confidence is killer right now in any sport. And if you're confident, you're a big believer in what you're doing. You're a big believer in what your coach has kind of implemented. It can be dangerous for your opposing team.
Mm-hmm. And what I love, I think one of my favorite things about Giannis is just his loyalty to that roster, his loyalty to that city, and it's the fact that he never gave up on that team, that organization, that city. So many stars in the past have gone drafted to Minnesota, drafted to Milwaukee, drafted to Charlotte, drafted to Cleveland, and just bounced as soon as they could. Giannis gave it a shot, signed an extension with the Bucks, gets his way to the finals, and what do we see in Game 2? The Suns won Game 2, but we see Giannis in the huddle on the sideline, screaming at the top of his lungs, just imploring his teammates to not give up, to fight, to push through. And, he's always talking about how much he loves the city of Milwaukee, how much he loves being there. This is a guy that, I mean, has given the shirt off his back to the city of Milwaukee and to the Bucks organization. And you can just see how much he loves the game of basketball. You can see how much he loves that team, and you can see how much he loves those guys. And you can tell every time he goes out there on that court, he's trying to be the best player in the world for those guys so he can win them games, win them championships. And it's refreshing because a lot of these modern players don't have that kind of loyalty, don't have that kind of love for the guys that they play with. And when you see Giannis on that court, you can tell that he's so hard on himself because he wants to please everyone else on that team.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head here. And when you said he's trying to be the best player in the world, and he's looking like it right now, especially after coming off a terrifying injury like he had. Like you said, nearly tore his ACL, and it's amazing to see the kind of rehabilitation that he had, the recovery that he had as quickly as he did, and he's come back and played really well.
He has. The Bucks cut the series to 2 games to 1. Game 4 will come up in just a couple days. If the Bucks win Game 4, obviously we're tied 2-2, and it becomes a best of 3 for the championship. I'm still holding true to my prediction of Suns in 6. I don't think that's changed yet. But the way the Bucks played tonight, obviously, I think the series is definitely going 6. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it went 7. Both of these teams got to the finals for a reason. They're both very, very talented, and I think at the end of the day, I could see both of them hoisting the trophy.
Yeah, it's possible. What Monty Williams and company have done in Phoenix is nothing short of amazing this year. And how good Chris Paul has been, and with Booker and Ayton has been awesome as well. But Milwaukee still has a shot, and we thought this series would be fun. Phoenix has won both of they won the first 2 games easily. But they come out tonight, and Milwaukee came out, like you said, with before the show. You said they're coming out with a vengeance, and that they did. They came out and they dominated tonight, and they get the win here in Game 3.
Yeah, and that's the kind of mentality you have to have in a game like tonight, where the Milwaukee Bucks knew that they had to win tonight. You cannot lose at home and go down 3-0. This was a must-win game for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Suns are one of those teams where the longer you let them hang around, the more likely they are to make you pay for it. So credit to the Bucks, credit to Giannis Antetokounmpo, credit to Drew Holiday for giving them a solid punch to the jaw right off the bat, giving them a solid uppercut, giving them asserting themselves, being the aggressor, taking control of that game and not letting Phoenix get back in it. Milwaukee did what they had to do tonight, and they have to do the exact same thing in Game 4. And if they do, they have momentum going back to Phoenix.
They do, and they need to kind of come back here and kind of get back into this. Refocus. Find that momentum that you had coming in, and I think though if they can come out of Game 4 with a win, they have all the momentum going and back to Phoenix.
Yeah, they do. So I'm staying true to my prediction of Suns in 6. Are you still holding on to your Suns in 7?
I am.
All right. Well, there you go. But tonight was a great game. So far through 3 games, this series has been exactly what I wanted it to be. I like watching both of these teams play, so I really don't care who wins. I'd love to see Chris Paul get a ring, but I'd also love to see Giannis get a ring. So I don't really have a dog in this fight. I'm just hoping for a really, really entertaining NBA Finals. And so far through 3 games, I think we've gotten that.
Yeah, we have, and it's been fun, no doubt about it. And I'm excited to see what continues to happen here in this series. It's gonna be a blast to kind of see how this plays out. And yeah, that's all I got. It's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. So let's get into the MLB. We're at the All-Star break. Games pick up again on Friday. But it's been an interesting first half, Parker. Some things that we expected, some things that we didn't expect, and a lot of in between. So I'm gonna start off, and I tweeted about this, and I warned everybody, so be ready. The Cincinnati Reds, they are red hot coming into the All-Star break. It's a team that's been on an absolute roller coaster of a season. They started off the season red hot, took over first place in the division, fell back to earth, fell all the way down to 4th place. And unlike in years past when they fall apart and don't recover, this year they've bounced back. They've climbed their way back up to 6 games over 500, back into 2nd place, just won 3 out of 4 in a huge series against first place Milwaukee, beating Freddie Peralta and Brandon Woodruff on back-to-back days. And this Reds team comes into the series, into the All-Star break, not just with momentum, but also with a lot of confidence. And I think that this is a team, they have 3 more with the Brewers outside of the break in Cincinnati. I will definitely be getting tickets to those games. But if this Reds team can take care of business and win at home like they have all year, they're right back within 2 games of first place. And when you're talking about that in late July, you're right in the thick of things. I think the Reds are going to be buyers at the deadline, go out, get a couple relievers, maybe get a shortstop as well. I'm not saying this is a team that's ready to compete with the Dodgers or Padres yet, but I am saying this is a team that can compete with the Brewers. And right now, I think they look like the best team in the Central.
They look really good right now. And it's amazing that they're 6 games over 500 and the run differential is only +8. So they're looking really good, like you said. Castillo has seemed to find a groove here, as well as guys like India's playing well, and the bullpen's been fantastic for David Bell. It has, and that's not to forget about the 2 hottest names in Cincinnati right now, and that's Winger and Castellanos. So these guys are looking really good. They're slowly catching up to Milwaukee here in this division. 4 games back, and it's going to be a race to the finish here in the Central.
It sure is. And Nick Castellanos, I joked earlier, but I sincerely mean it. If the Cincinnati mayor has not signed off on beginning construction of the Nick Castellanos statue, he's already behind schedule. This guy delivered again today with a 2-run game-winning single off of Josh Hader in the 9th inning, and that's just not something that happens very often, Parker, in Major League Baseball as a whole. Josh Hader took the L back-to-back days. Josh Hader's been the nastiest reliever in baseball for 3 years. When was the last time we saw Josh Hader lose a game, let alone 2 in a row?
Yeah, it's been a while, and Josh Hader's one of the best relievers in baseball, and the Reds made him look pretty silly the last couple of days. I mean,
Yeah.
and I know we talked about it before the show, and you said coming in, we're like, oh, Reds ain't gonna get out of this. It's over, game over. And then they score a few runs and win the game. So, to do that one game is pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
To do it 2 games in a row is awesome, and
Yeah.
that's it's really good to see the Reds having success after they haven't had a whole lot of success over the past few years with the exception of last year. So hopefully I'm not jinxing anything. And if I am, I'm sure I'll never hear the end of it from you. But the Reds look really good right now for sure.
They do. And I know we talked about it, even just last week that Gabe Kapler is really the runaway favorite for NL Manager of the Year right now, just with what he's been able to do with the Giants. But if this trend continues in Cincinnati and the Reds are able to, get first place in the Central and even win the division, David Bell's in that conversation. David Bell, with what he's been able to do with what's statistically the second worst bullpen in baseball, only to the Rockies, having Sonny Gray hurt numerous times this year, no Mike Moustakas. Suarez is hitting 180. No clear-cut starting shortstop. Joey Votto missed a month. Nick Senzel's been out for most of the year. He's had to deal with so many hurdles, so many obstacles, and the fact that he has this team, just a few games out of first place, I think David Bell is right there behind Kapler in Manager of the Year.
He is, and as good of a job as Kapler and company have done in San Francisco, David Bell's got this Reds team in the perfect spot to make a run right now. And I know some people would argue that the Reds are in the middle of a run right now. Winners of 3 straight, and they're going in. They just finished a season win or a series win with against the Brewers. So this one is the Reds are looking really good right now, and David Bell has them in a really good spot.
And this is coming from me, a guy that constantly criticizes David Bell. I literally almost put him in D tier when we did a tier listed managers a couple months ago, about a month ago. I have been so critical of David Bell over the last 2.5 years, but I will admit, with what he's been given this year in terms of a roster and what he's been able to do with the injuries and the lack of performance out of the bullpen and the lack of consistency out of the offense, the fact that he has this team this close to striking distance for a division championship is remarkable. And I mean, I think, if they win the division or not this year, just the fact that they were in this position, the fact that they're going into the deadline as buyers, the fact that they're going in ready to make a run in the second half, I think he's earned an extension as manager of the Reds.
He has, and unless something goes terribly wrong here, which I hope doesn't happen, David Bell's certainly I think earned an extension here, and he's done a fantastic job. And he hasn't had the greatest teams. Some would argue that he still doesn't have a great team, but if you're winning, winning makes a lot of winning causes a lot of problems. Winning. What am I trying to say here? Winning
fixes a lot of problems.
Diminishes a lot of problems.
There you go.
And that's if you're winning, lots of people tend to see through all the some issues or kind of inconsistencies. So the Reds are certainly doing that now. I know they're 9-2 in their last 11 or something like that. So they're looking strong right now for sure.
They are, and I think that it's a team. Like I said, they still have holes, and they're not. I don't think they're a top 3 team in the National League by any means. I'd say the 3 most dangerous teams in the National League for me, in terms of talent, is still Dodgers, Padres, and Mets. I know the Giants have had such a strong year, and they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. That pitching rotation is great with Kevin Gausman, Alex Wood, Anthony DeSclafani, Johnny Cueto. But On paper, I still think the Mets are more dangerous with Jacob deGrom, Taijuan Walker, Marcus Stroman. You have that bullpen that has Edwin Diaz, Seth Lugo, Trevor May. And then you also have an offense that has Pete Alonso, Dom Smith, Brandon Nimmo, Michael Conforto, Francisco Lindor, Jeff McNeil. I know that it's been rare that the Mets have had everything work at the same time this year, but I still think if they get everything to work at the same time, it's a top 3 team in the National League. And I still know that even if the Reds, if the Reds get it together and win the division, odds are the winner of the West is going to be the team that gets the 1 seed and plays the winner of the wild card game, which means the Reds would play the winner of the National League East, which looks like it's going to be the Mets. So you go into that series against the Mets, hey, congrats, you won the division. Enjoy 3 games against deGrom, Taijuan Walker, and Marcus Stroman.
Yeah, and this is, you're going to have, like you said, the Mets are strong right now in the East. And then if the Reds win this division, they the playoffs push. The playoffs are never easy, and they're going to have their work cut out for them here. And hopefully this isn't a sign, or this is a sign of things to come for the Reds. Hopefully they're not burning through all their through their entire tank here coming up through the second half. So maybe this is a sign of good things to come, or not.
Yeah. I have 2 more things, and then we'll get into other divisions, obviously, because I don't want to talk about the Reds for 30 minutes. But one, I will back off a cliff because I know this will make you happy that I admit this on the air. I don't think the Reds are going to trade for Trevor Story. What I think is actually going to happen is that they're going to call the Miami Marlins, and they are going to try and get Yimi Garcia, who's their closer and one of the better relievers on the market. I think he's a great fit for Cincinnati with his very strong breaking stuff, slider, curveball, changeup. He also throws about 95. I think he's kind of the guy that they're targeting. I know another guy that they really like is Taylor Rogers with the Minnesota Twins, hard-throwing lefty, who could help out Amir Garrett and Sean Doolittle in that pen, as well as Josh Osich. But I think they call the Marlins first because if you get Yimi Garcia, you can also try to get Miguel Rojas, who's not Trevor Story, and he's not, Willie Adames, and he's not Xander Bogaerts. But Miguel Rojas is still an upgrade from Kyle Farmer, and Miguel Rojas is a guy that's going to hit 280, 290, and play some really solid defense at short, and that's something that the Reds need. So I think that's actually what's going to happen. I think they're going to call the Marlins, try to get Yimi Garcia, and see if they can get Miguel Rojas in that deal.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 months of, adamant, going on and on and on.
Get it out.
I never thought I would see the day where Shea Neal admits that Story will not be traded to the Reds. I rest my case.
I don't think the Reds. I think the Reds have the opportunity to get Story. I don't think they're going to give up the top 5 prospect that the Rockies are going to want.
So I rest my case. And moving on to this I want to talk about the West here for a few minutes, because this one is, it's a 3-team race to the top. And all these teams are looking really strong. The Giants, nobody expected them to be this good, myself included in that. And they look really strong. Kapler, like we said, is the favorite for NL Manager of the Year right now. And he's got this team in a perfect spot. And they don't have the best run differential in the division. The Dodgers have that, but especially after the butt whooping they put on Arizona, the other night. But this Giants team is looking fantastic. I like you said earlier, I don't think they have the best overall roster as far as talent goes. But they're winning, and winning fixes everything. So the Dodgers are two games back in this division. Kenley Jansen seemed to found his stuff right now. He's looking really good.
I watched him pitch today. He looks really good.
He does. And then, you never count out the San Diego Padres, because they're down there in third, but they're 6 games back, and that 6-game, deficit could diminish in a hurry. The Diamondbacks look atrocious. They're at 32 games back, as they should be because they are not a good team. The Rockies are, a dumpster fire as well. But the other three teams in this conference or in this division are certainly in the race for the top.
Yeah, they sure are. And I think the Dodgers are still the best team here. I think that the Dodgers get a really good opportunity outside the All Star break. They go up against the Rockies in Denver, while the Giants have to take on the Cardinals in St. Louis, which the Cardinals are not the Cardinals of the few years past. This year, they're not great. They're okay. But they're definitely better than the Rockies. And it's a good chance for the Dodgers to get some games right out of the All Star break. The Rockies, they're bad, but I did not. I mean, 40 and 51 is a little better than I honestly expected them to be at the All Star break. They're and it's funny because they're 31 and 17 at home, which is one of the best home records in the National League. They're 9 and 34 away. That's brutal. They beat the Padres today, and that was their first road series win of the year. It's mid-July. Um, the Diamondbacks are horrible. I knew the Diamondbacks wouldn't be good this year. I didn't think they'd be this bad. This is awful. This is real. They're obviously tanking for whoever's going to be the number one overall pick next year. But yeah, this is a fun race. I'm excited. We're gonna have a lot of Dodgers Giants games in the second half, and I mean, anytime any of these top three teams in the West are going up against anybody above 500, it's gonna be must watch baseball because these three teams, like you said, are in a dog race to the finish, and that's what's fun about both the Central and the West. I mean, the East, it's been a bunch of teams kind of tripping over each other. In the West, you get the Padres, Giants, and Dodgers all fighting at the top. And now in the Central, we thought for a while that it'd just be the Brewers because everyone else was kind of struggling to figure it out. But now it looks like the Reds are coming out of nowhere and making this a two-team race. So National League certainly fun.
Yeah, and we all thought the Pirates would be the worst team in baseball, but like you said, the Rockies, looking at their record, they're not as bad as I thought they would be. They've won an abysmal 9 games on the road, which is easily the worst away record in baseball. But like you said, one of the best home records in baseball as well. So they're not completely, terrible like we all thought they would be. That is the Colorado Rockies. Arizona has, surprised me with how bad they've been, honestly.
Yeah.
Torey Lovillo will be fired at the end of the year. I honestly think that. I thought Bud Black would be gone after this year. I still think that, but I think Torey's going to be out here at the end of this year. So the National League is fun, and especially, it's surprising that the Mets are, winning the National League East. I easily thought this was a division that could go to the Atlanta Braves. I thought that early in the year. It sucks to lose Acuna for the rest of the year with the torn ACL, but the Braves will be back. They always find a way, in it there. But this National League East division is insanely close.
It
The
is.
Mets are leading, the division at 47 and 40. Phillies are 3.5 back. Braves are 4 back. Nats are 6 back, and the Miami Marlins sit at 39 and 50. They're 9 games back from the New York Mets in this division.
And what's funny is the Marlins have the second best run differential in the division.
Right, they do, and the Phillies have the second worst run differential in the division, and they're second in the division, only 3.5 back. So, the Phillies have a negative run differential, but sit at 500 even as a percentage. So, this is one of the closer divisions in all of baseball. Here is this National League East.
It is. I mean, I think the Mets are the team to beat in this division, honestly, with their big three of Walker, DeGrom, and Stroman. They're also still supposed to get Syndergaard back in the second half, which, I mean, adds a fourth weapon. I think that their offense is strong when it's on. McNeil, Smith, Alonso, Lindor, Nimmo, Conforto. But I don't think the Phillies are bad, but I still can't trust their bullpen. And I don't know how much I can trust their offense outside of Harper and Real Muto. So I still think in the back of my head, I'm just waiting for the day that it clicks for the Braves. And now that Acuna's hurt, maybe it doesn't click for the Braves, which is good news for the Mets because I think, honestly, my personal opinion, unless the Braves figure it out, I think it's the Mets division to lose.
It is, and they, we're not both of us are not fans of Luis Rojas, but
The
the
talent on that roster is insane.
it is, and with DeGrom and Syndergaard and Lindor, Alonso. I mean, there's so much talent on this New York Mets roster that they find themselves in this spot. Leading the division halfway through. So this one's interesting. And the AL is a lot of fun as well. It's the three leaders of these divisions are Astros, White Sox, Red Sox, and this if I told you at the All-Star break that the New York Yankees would be 46 and 43, fourth in their division, you probably would have laughed at me.
And 4.5 games out of any playoff spot.
Right.
They're almost 5 full games out of the playoffs.
Yeah. And this Yankees team is one that we thought would be winning this division at this point in this year. Mm-hmm. We didn't know the Red Sox would be this great, and they are. Tampa's a game and a half back, and then Toronto's third in this division. Toronto's not out of this by any means.
And I know they're both tied. Both the Blue Jays and the Yankees are tied. But if you look at run differential, and honestly, if you just look at how these two teams have played over the majority of the last 2 months, I think right now, even though the Yankees probably have more talent, the Blue Jays are playing better baseball.
They are. And, and I would argue that it's possible that, both these teams are, pretty close on talent.
It's fair.
Especially with the additions of, that Toronto's had with Springer, with Bichette, with Vladdy Jr. What a season, Vladdy Jr.'s had. As well as Semien, Grichuk, and Biggio there in Toronto, and then they have some fantastic pitchers there as well.
They do.
The Rays have the best run differential in this division at +85. The Jays have the second best, but the Red Sox leading this division have the third best run differential, with the Yankees only having a +1 run differential.
Yeah, and the Red Sox have jumped out to a really strong start because of a strong bullpen and a really, really good offense led by Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, Rafi Devers, and Alex Verdugo. What they need right now is starting pitching consistency, and what they need right now is Chris Sale to come back. And that's supposed to happen. But if that doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen the way they want it to happen, I could still see the Rays, Blue Jays, or even Yankees still being threats to win this division. I think that the Yankees are still talented enough to make up this 8-game gap. I think Toronto's talented enough to make up this 8-game gap. But we're going to have a really interesting series right out of the gate in the second half, Parker. Yankees, Red Sox in the Bronx. Yankees win that series and take care of business at home. The AL East got really interesting. If the Red Sox win, the Yankees might be done.
Yeah, and keep in mind that they go to the Bronx, and then just a few days later, they're at Fenway. Same series all over again. So if the Red Sox dominate both these series, Yankees are out of it. They are gonna, and if they, unless something insanely magical happens and the Yankees go on some sort of historic run, they're out of it if they lose, if they get handled in these series.
Right, and but on the flip side of that, I mean, the Yankees still, you could argue, have the ball in their court. Where if they win 2 out of 3 over the next, over these next 2 series against the Red Sox, and make up a game or two when they're not playing Boston over the next couple weeks, they've made up half that gap. So the Yankees far from out of this, and they still have plenty of games against the Red Sox, against the Rays, and against the Blue Jays to try and trim this gap. But like you said, they got to start winning games against their division rivals. And the way that the top 4 are playing right now, the only team I'm confident the Yankees can beat consistently is Baltimore.
Yeah. And speaking of Baltimore, they're not in this. They're not even close. 20 back. And
no, they stink.
Yeah, they stink. They've struggled, and a division here that coming up next is really fun. Is the West.
Yes.
And they're this is a blast. These top 4 teams aren't out of it. They're not. The Astros are leading this division at 55 and 36. With a 136 run diff, but the A's are coming up the rear here. They're 3.5 back. Mariners aren't as bad as, they started out hot and then, kind of fell back to earth a bit. We all thought the Angels were really bad for a while, but they're still just a tick over 500, and they've won 7 of their last 10. So
Right. And they're clawing.
this,
Credit to the Angels for clawing their way back into this playoff, fight without Mike Trout. They're supposed to get Trout back here in the next couple weeks. Oakland right now holds the second wild card spot. If the season ended today, we'd have Rays and A's in the battle of the broke boy teams that do well. Seattle has been maybe my favorite team to follow in this first half of the year that isn't the Reds, because they weren't supposed to be this good yet. They were supposed to still be a year or two away. And the fact that they're figuring it out and that they're 5 games over 500, remarkable job by Scott Service, a guy that both of us thought really wasn't that great of a manager. But I got to give credit where credit's due. He's done a pretty solid job with the Seattle team.
he has, and we both thought that if the Mariners had a rough year, maybe Scott Service's time will come, but he's got the Mariners in a great spot. Kikuchi has been fantastic.
Kikuchi's been great.
And it's not to discount anything what they've done on offense, but their pitching has carried them through this big run that they've had.
No doubt about it. And considering Kikuchi's ERA in his first 2 years in the league was like 5.3, it's insane how good he's been, how he just kind of flipped a switch and figured it out. But that's exactly what happened. But the AL West is going to be really fun to watch. A's and Mariners in LA, in Anaheim, I should say, right out of the break. That'll be a good matchup to see, which team kind of falls off into fourth and which team stays around there with Oakland and Houston at the top of that division. If the Angels can stay treading water until Trout gets back, this is a team that can make a run at a wild card spot, especially if their front office is willing to add a couple pitchers at the deadline.
Yeah, and I think they'll do that. They their pitching has really held them back, and with the exception of Ohtani, but Bundy struggled. Their bullpen's a mess, and they need to get the kinks worked out. In both those spots. I think they'll add a starter, maybe 2 at the deadline, and bring in a few relievers. But I never count out a Joe Madden managed team, never. And so they're going to find their way. We thought they would. We thought they'd be better than they were, but they still aren't out of it by any means.
No, and then the AL Central, the White Sox kind of running away with it, the largest division lead of any division in baseball. An 8-game lead over second place Cleveland, who's really the only team in the rearview mirror. But I will say, Detroit, AJ Hinch has done a pretty nice job with the Tigers. I mean, I did not expect them to be only 11 games under at the break. They're only 1 game under 500 at home. So the Tigers are taking a step in the right direction, and I'm impressed with that. I'm excited to see what AJ Hinch accomplishes moving forward. Twins have obviously been a big disappointment. Royals have fallen back to earth. But really, this is the White Sox division to lose, and I don't see them losing it.
I don't either. As much as I love Tito and Cleveland, La Russa has done a heck of a job. And, there were some issues, early in the year, with people saying that players don't like him or whatever the issues were, but you can't argue with success. And the White Sox have had that. Their pitching staff has been really good. Add in Mercedes, Tim Anderson, Abreu, among others here in Chicago. And they're rolling.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
All right, really quick to end the show today, Parker. We have about 3 minutes. I want to do if the season ended today. Well, not really. What we know today, picking the teams that'll make the playoffs at the end of the year. I will start, and we'll start with the American League. I'm going to go with the Red Sox win the East. I think Chris Sale comes back, and I think he's the Chris Sale of old, and I think it propels the Red Sox to an AL East championship. White Sox win the Central. Astros win the West. Here's where it gets fun, okay? I think in the wild card, a team in the AL East that has had their ups and downs in the first half tracks down one of the wild card teams. No, it's not the team you're thinking of. The Blue Jays are going to make a wild card spot, and I have the wild card being the Blue Jays and the Oakland A's. I think the Rays fall out of the playoffs. So my playoff spots are the Red Sox, the White Sox, the Astros, the Blue Jays, and the A's.
So, I agree with you with Boston. agree with you with the White Sox. I'm taking the Athletics to win the West. I
Okay.
think Bob Melvin has his team in a really good spot. They're going to go on a run here. Wild card teams for me. I love the Blue Jays as well. I'm picking them, for the wild card for the AL. One you might not expect here. I think
Is he gonna say Angels? What's he saying here?
I'm going to say Angels.
Oh my goodness!
I think the Angels are going to go on a hell of a run here in the second half.
Yeah.
They're gonna add a few key pitchers at the deadline. They're gonna get Trout back with Rendon. As good as Otani's playing, they
No,
add in
Otani
Trout,
gets the wild card game. He'd have to, right?
right, and Otani comes in. As good as he's playing, they'll get Trout back. Rendon's good as well. Add a few key pitchers, and you're rolling. So
Oh,
here's my AL playoff push:
dude,
Red Sox, White Sox, Athletics, Angels, Blue Jays.
if the Angels make the playoffs and Otani pitches the wild card game, I'm literally glued to my TV, like not moving. That's must watch TV. All right, let's get to the National League. And for me, I'm going to go with the Mets to win the East. This is going to sound biased, but I'm going to go with the Reds to win the Central. I think they have more consistent bats than the Brewers. And I know the Brewers have the big three of Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta, but I think the Reds' big three of Castillo, Gray, and Miley is a lot closer than a lot of people think. So I'm going to go with the Reds. I think they get a couple relievers at the deadline. They may also add a shortstop. I think it gets them the division. Reds win the Central. Dodgers win the West. I still think they figure it out. My wild card teams for me, I think the Brewers kind of fall back to earth and end the season barely over 500. I've got the Giants and the Padres as the wild card teams.
So Dodgers win the West for me as well. I'm taking the Brewers to win the Central.
That's fair. Until they make moves, I see it.
I think the Mets, stay kind of on they're not going to fall completely out of it, but they're not going to pull too far away either. This division is going to stay close. I think the Mets ultimately win it. This is where it gets interesting. I'm taking the Giants as a wild card team.
Okay.
I think the Padres are going to take a major hit here.
Okay.
Reds are my final wild card team.
Oh my goodness, he got him in. Look at him. He figured out how to put the Reds in the playoffs.
Oh, so my National League playoffs.
How'd they get there for you? Was it Trevor Story? Is that what propelled them in? No, I'm just kidding.
We already talked about this, Shay. We already talked about this on this show. No, but I think the offense for the Reds is looking really strong. As good as Winker and Castellanos is playing, it's the guys that you don't expect that are playing well. Guys like India, guys like Votto, guys like Stevenson and Naquin. So this Reds team is a lot of fun. So that's my National League playoffs: Mets, Brewers, Dodgers, Giants, Reds.
All right, and mine is Mets, Reds, Dodgers, Giants, and Padres. So that does it for today's episode of Keep It Real. Appreciate you hanging out with us from 1 to 3. Little, until about 3:05 actually. We kind of ran over a little bit, but you might be hearing this last part on YouTube only. We might have had to already cut it on the radio, but whatever. But we appreciate you hanging out with us, Parker. Any final thoughts?
It's been a good weekend for sports. The MLB draft started this evening when we're recording this. Tyler Black is a Brewer, and I'm excited to see how the rest of the draft shakes out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like I said earlier, as the week goes on, we'll be talking more and more draft, where the Raiders end up, as well as what some of the big moves were on draft night, and we're 2 weeks away, Parker, from the trade deadline getting really, really interesting. Where's Trevor Story going? Where could Scherzer be on the move? There's so much to figure out. And both of our teams are going to be buyers at the deadline, so it's going to be a really fun couple of shows on deadline week. So I'm excited for that. But I'm excited for the month of July is absolutely insane in the sports world. We still got the finals to get through, All-Star weekend, home run derby tonight. We didn't even get into that. The home run derbies tonight. We both made our picks. You're going with Otani. I'm going with Joey Gallo to win tonight. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if Otani won. But enjoy the home run derby. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and we will see you tomorrow on Keep It Real. So for Parker Testa back in Noblesville, I am Shea Neal saying so long and keep it real. We'll see you tomorrow.